actually, Tim's not going. I don't know if he got his count in. Last year, he said that he wasn't going because it wasn't fair. But then I heard from somebody else that he actually didn't get his count in, and so he couldn't go. So I don't know what the truth is there. But Tanner was the only like big dog that's entered as far as household names in bareback riding. But Nick Pelkey is one of my guys that he's been talking to me about training. He rodeoed at Missouri Valley. He's like a really good bareback rider, but he's been talking to me about training since I was rodeoing. Oh yeah, this winter I'm gonna hit you up. This winter I'm gonna hit you up, and he never does. And then a couple months ago, he was like, "All right, man, 24th in the world isn't cutting it. I need to do something different." And I'm like, "All right, well, let's go." And so he's been going with me for maybe 6 weeks now, and absolutely slaying it. And it's been a lot of fun because he's been much more coachable than I thought he was going to be. And so he has a lot of preconceived notions about training, was a wrestler, is trained up there at Moval. Like, so he has a lot of, and he's like, wait, why am I doing this? Or like, hey, shouldn't we do this? Or, hey, aren't we supposed to, or I'm riding this weekend, it's Tuesday. He's like, I'm riding on Friday. So I don't really think, I probably shouldn't do this workout today. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so so then I've been able to like tell him truthfully, like, and he's been, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's been a really cool like journey. It's not just training an athlete. I've been able to like educate him and be able to walk through that with him. So that's been really cool. And he's been slaying it. He was like 83, 85, 88 or something like that at Indy the other day in Indianapolis.
Oh, nice.
and got him for some money, and he's got a really nice one tonight in the first round of the Great Lakes Circuit Finals. So I'm super excited for him.
Does start tonight.
Yeah, Great Lakes Circuit Finals. I'm super excited to watch him go. I'll be honest, I haven't even looked at the other events. I have no idea who's qualified to the other events at Great Lakes Circuit Finals, but the bareback riding looks pretty good. The horses look fantastic. It should be.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't even looked at it.
Yeah. Do you have some bull riders there, Paul?
Yeah, I got John.
That's right. How could I forget about?
I think he's
Jonathan Young.
Yeah, he. I don't want to say it since we are live action. I don't want to say it before I know for sure.
I'm trying to pull up the day sheet.
Go ahead.
Hey, Doug, have you seen this little Cooper Heimberg kid?
Mm-mm.
He goes to school at Missouri Valley.
The bareback
Dude
rider
is next level. Yeah, he's like a sophomore, maybe freshman, sophomore. Missouri Valley, I think. Like he is insane.
Missouri Valley makes
he's going to
some
be there.
Good
yeah, Tanner Oz.
bucking horse riders.
Well, they have.
This is the last one for a while. He's getting hip surgery after this.
Getting his labrum fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Be good to get that knocked out, and going in strong already is a plus going into those surgeries. Like you hear a lot of people that get hurt and they just don't do anything all the way up until surgery, and that could be months, man. And those people that don't do that and stay active and do what they can and keep everything strong, dude, your rehabilitation is just going to be so much faster, so much easier. You have no idea what you're actually setting yourself up for. And when I had my back surgery, the best thing that ever happened during that was going in super strong. It'd been years of working out with this back injury. And so going in, the doc was even like, dude, I've never operated on anyone like you. So this is going to be, I don't know what, sky's the limit. He's like, you'll be fixed. I don't know what you'll be able to do, but
this particular approach for John was so unique too. Because like when we were talking, a month or probably almost 2 months ago, really getting started on like when he had decided to have the surgery after the circuit finals, it was like a weird setup because like we had to get him ready for circuit finals, but he wasn't getting on anything between now and then. and then he doesn't have to get on anything after this week. So like we're trying to like feel out different things. Like, okay, does anything make it worse? Does anything, we don't want to hinder your performance at all, but really at the end of the day, you just got to tough it out for 3, and then like you get to take a break.
Dude,
it's such a unique place because so many times when we have guys get injured, like it's emergency surgery. Like you get off one, you injure yourself, then you're having your surgery is now scheduled after that last one.
Yeah.
And so this was like such a unique approach, and it's been fun, and I think everything's gone really, really well up till this point. So I think the circuit final should really pan out well. And then at the end of the day, like there's no pressure because, like you said, like after this, we get to go get it fixed and have the winner off. And and
that's exactly how it happened for me. Like August 2nd, I blew the labrum in both my hips, and I was like winning the circuit. Things had gone well, and so I just went home for a little bit. And I was like, okay, do I get surgery now? Do I wait? Circuit finals are in October. I was winning the circuit. Like, okay, what would it look like if I just rehabbed for like 6-8 weeks or something like that? And so I just started rehab as soon as I could kind of get around a little bit. I started rehab and rehabbed every single day. And then turns out I had to go to one more rodeo for my circuit count. And they had one on the last weekend of the season. And so I had like 7 weeks and went to that circuit rodeo, and like it didn't bug me very much at all. It was fine. And then I had like 3 weeks before circuit finals, so kept rehabbing. And I'm gonna tell you, at the turquoise circuit finals at the time, it was Friday night, one Saturday afternoon, one Saturday night. And so like after the first round, Friday night, I was like, I'm canceling my surgery. I'm fine. I feel great. Let me tell you, after Saturday afternoon, in between Saturday afternoon and Saturday night, I was like, surgery can't get here fast enough. And so I had surgery like the beginning of December, and it's like typically like a 16-week, just a regular labral repair, like shaving off an impingement, no microfracture, anything like that having to be done. At that point in time, I don't know if protocols changed, but it was a 16-week recovery process. Is like that's when they would like typically clear you back. I came back 12 weeks to the day and have never had another issue. And a lot of that was because of the preparation that I put in ahead of time. And then I followed the rehab protocol that they gave me to a T. If it said 10 to 12 reps, I did 12, but I didn't do 13. If it said 3 to 4 sets, I did 4 sets, but I didn't do a fifth one. I pushed it as far as they would let me, but I didn't do anything. I felt great. There were times where I was like, man, I really want to get back to working out. But until they cleared me for it. And the other thing I think that makes a really big difference on those things is your surgeon. Like the surgeon makes a huge difference. I had an elbow surgery and a hip surgery. The hip surgery, I went to a person who only does hips. Dr. Bird in Nashville, that's all he does. And he's done a lot of elite athletes, and it was fantastic. I did the rehab protocol, came back, never had any issues. A year later, I have elbow surgery, and I'm the 14th surgery that this guy does that day. And he's used to, it's just a regular old surgeon at the local hospital. And he's used to helping grandma get the can of beans off the top shelf, right? Not elite athletes. Elbow was never right again. Yeah. So, that I think that the surgeon and your preparation on the front end, as well as the back end, well as the prehab and the rehab, I think are really huge determining factors in how it ends up for you.
Yeah.
This stuff back. Looking like a freaking prepubescent boy over here.
That's funny. There is that we get so trapped in like our own thing, right? Like for me as somebody, I think that our past really plays a huge role. And for me being somebody that's always been extremely skinny, some sort of albino Ethiopian type skinny, then like getting to a spot where I put on muscle, it can be like really addicting to be like, there are times where I see a video of myself and I'm like, I don't even recognize that person still to this day. And I've had muscle for a while. And so it gets to the spot where I'm naturally inclined. If you give me a set of weights, like I am going to try to add muscle, right? I'm not going to use those weights in a way to work on mobility. I'm not going to use those weights in a way to necessarily increase my power at this stage. Like that's just where I naturally default to. And it's really been made apparent over the last couple of weeks in trying some new things. Paul's been diving into this guy by the name of Vernon Griffith and some of his content and his stuff. A lot of the stuff that Paul's been doing is super mobility focused, and some of the exercises, man, they're great and they would be awesome for rodeo athletes. So I'm at the gym and I'm demoing this one exercise, and it's the first time I can't do it. I don't have the thoracic mobility to separate my shoulders from my hips like I'm supposed to in that exercise. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That's a problem. Like, that's not okay for me here I am like a coach and I don't have the thoracic mobility that I'm supposed to have. And so, and then at OPA, Paul like showed me some of the hip mobility that he's been doing, and it was game changing. I mean, I'm like, okay, all right, I need to change my approach a little bit here. I mean, I'm not going away from lifting heavy weight, but I definitely need to supplement in some mobility, because at the end of the day, it is about longevity. And I think that happens to anybody, right? Like anybody can get trapped in a place.
And obviously like your goals are different right now, but like, it was funny when you told me that, because it was like, you've literally become the reason why most rodeo guys don't work out. Like you did that to yourself.
yeah. I don't want to be bulky, and
I don't want to be too bulky and not be able to move around. And it's like, oh crap, Logan did that.
So, for sure.
But like there's a particular methodology that results in that, like,
yes, exactly.
None of your clients are feeling like that. It's not like people do that type of thing and they experience what you experience and they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to work out if that's how I feel. But like, at the end of the day, like that's one way of
to be clear, he's always had shitty thoracic mobility.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. And the fact that like it comes from like not practicing what you preach, right? Like you get in the gym and it's easy for us. A lot of times I'm not necessarily following a program. I've got like 45 minutes here and I'm throwing something together. Right. And so you do that day in and day out. I mean, we're traveling a bunch, like it's 3 workouts a week, 4 workouts a week for 6 months. And all of a sudden you're like, man, I really haven't been focusing on my mobility here lately, and skipping cool downs and those kind of things. And it like, man, it takes its toll. And so it's good for me. Like it's as bad as it sucks to be like, hey, do as I say, don't do as now. I have even more real world experience, because that's the natural inclination for all of our clients, right? Like go get the pump and skip the cool down, skip the mobility. Don't do the mobility while you're rodeoing it. And I can say confidently, like it's going to make a huge difference in your performance, not just scientifically knowledge wise, but like experience. And it makes a really, really big difference. So anyway, it's been fun to dive in and start exploring some new movements and different ways to do them as far as mobility is concerned. And it's been game changing. Some of the stuff that I've been like exploring with, I've been able to give some clients. Everybody's main thing is hips, right? Like hips. Oh, my hips ache. And so some of this hip mobility stuff that we've been exploring with, not only using it myself, but then being able to give it to clients. I've gotten like, people are like, dude, my hips feel amazing. And so anyway, it's been really cool. And it's just ways that we grow, right? Like, or we should be. If we're not, like, there's a problem. I mean, a healthy organism evolves, it grows. And so, anyway, it's been fun. I don't know how we got on this topic of me not practicing.
I don't even know what we just covered. We just covered so much. So much.
Somebody resonated with that. Somebody resonated.
Yeah, one of our 11 listeners.
Yeah. One thing that you said though is you're not following a plan, which I think as a coach is really easy to get away from, and that is when you start missing stuff.
Yeah.
Like
So easy.
get on a plan, like follow
Yep.
someone else. Like I have Matt writing plans. I'm doing his plan with him. Like whenever I'm lost, I'm like, all right, what plan am I going to go? I'm going to go pick something that we wrote and I'm going to go try it out. Cause like you'll miss stuff. You got to be staying after that. And we talked about that with just the recovery stuff for surgery. After surgery, like you stuck to the plan. You didn't do more reps than they said. You did just the max amount they would let you. You kept it in range. Boom. You got better way faster. Same thing, like mobility wise, got to hit that shit every day and you got to have a plan to do it. It's going to get way better if you're consistent with it. And then moving on, like building muscle, like we were talking about earlier, dude, you have to follow a plan. And like you put on muscle because you followed a plan that was designed to increase your muscle mass.
Yep.
And on top of that, you
Yep.
ate that way. Dude, you were fucking force feeding yourself basically for those first 2 months of that. And you were like timing your meals and tracking everything you were doing. You were super intentful. You didn't just go start lifting weights and everything stayed the same and you got fucking huge. Like you put in a ton of work and time for that. That is really important to be said because, I think that it could get confused that you just started working out and you got huge because like, no, he was super intentful about what he was doing.
Get big.
No.
Yeah. And I it's been a while since I've tracked too, and I'd like to get back to it, but it's just like, it's so labor intensive, right? And our lives have been crazy and everybody's life is crazy, but that to track, to actually accomplish your goals of, for like personal experience of adding muscle, like you said, it is not something that happens by accident. I plan my day around my meals and my workouts. Like that's how it has to be. And when I'm in that phase of like, okay, we're going to do this thing. And it's not easy to do. It can definitely be done. But the other thing is you have to be consistent. And so, there's been times in my life where I haven't been super consistent. I track for a day or two and I'm like, oh,
well, it's
that's
just seasons of life,
and then Yep, absolutely. 100%.
Go through these seasons. This is your season for growth. You're going to get bigger aesthetically. Cool. Boom, nailing it. Now we're busy. That's not a feasible goal. On to the next thing. But let's talk about getting bigger. Let's talk about putting on muscle. You genetically are not someone who is going to just blow up. There are people though that have genetics that they are more predisposed to freaking be jacked. And I am super envious of those people. But that being said, yeah, exactly. But that being said, your genes, it doesn't matter. You can get stronger. You can get bigger. You just have to be extra intentful about it and kind of stay in your lane and know that, like we just said, there are people that are genetically predisposed to respond differently to lifting, any lifting stimulus.
But that's an influence.
Yes.
Like that's not going to determine the outcome.
Absolutely
it's not black and white. Like your genetics definitely have an influence, but a guy with bad genetics can put on muscle. A guy with great genetics doesn't have to, automatically get huge.
Has to try half
his
the
body
time.
is more apt to. It's all part of like, the big picture and there's all of the other factors that go into it and the intentfulness behind the plan and the nutrition. Like those are probably going to be much greater factors than say genetics.
Exactly. 1,000%. I was just wanting to get out that no matter what your genetics are, you can put on muscle. Your journeys are just going to look very different than the other person who is built differently than you are. But that's why I was saying, stay in your lane, focus on you and the things that you're doing to get there. But we talked about metabolism right there, like fueling growth. You've got to give your body the fuel it needs to build muscle. Logan, what did you experience when you were eating more? How much were you eating? How often? How did you plan that all in the day?
It's a lot, man. It is. It's definitely something that's difficult to do. And I always think about, getting more calories or more bang for your buck when it comes to your calories. Right. And so which way now, with that being said, I'm not going to go and just smash 3 Big Macs so I can get 3,000 calories. But for me, I did the math. I looked at, based off of my age, weight, height, gender, I came up with some theoretical numbers on around about how much I was going to burn over the course of the day. At the time I was wearing a Whoop. And so my Whoop is also giving me numbers, which may or may not be super accurate, but at least they're consistent. And so I was able to kind of come up with a game plan on, okay, if I'm going to add weight, how much do I need to eat a day? And then once I came up with that game plan calorie wise, then I had to start looking at what are those calories made up of? What macronutrients do I need to consume in proportion? Because, you know, I said this at the OPA the other day, like we can agree that not all calories are created equal. If somebody's eating 2,500 calories of Oreos versus somebody else that's eating 2,500 calories of steak and potatoes, over 6 months, they're going to have very different results in how they feel training, no training at all. And so I started focusing primarily on my protein intake and trying to really watch where I was at, and I was shooting for around about 1 gram per pound of body weight. So I was 160, 165, 170 as I'm growing, and so I was always shooting for between 170, 180, 190 grams of protein, and then in that process, I also paid pretty close attention to my fats, and I didn't want my fats to take up a large portion. And with a gram of fat equaling 9 calories, it doesn't take long for those calories to add up. And so I always tried to keep my fat, around about 25% of my daily intake of calories. And then with whatever was left, I would fill that with carbs. And again, I'm looking for quality carbs. So I wouldn't just like, oh, it's, 9 p.m. and I haven't hit my calorie goals. Let me smash this bag of Fritos, like I'm eating sweet potatoes. I'm eating, fruit a couple times a day. I'm regular potatoes, like rice, a lot of rice. Like I'm looking for those ways. And so that's kind of the overarching game plan. But what it looked like was that when I made something, I didn't just make one of them. So if I'm cooking chicken breast, I made a whole sheet pan of it. If I'm making rice, I made a whole big bowl, like a whole big pot of it. If I'm, making sweet potatoes, I would just put I put 6 or 7 sweet potatoes in the oven at a time, and then I can store them in the fridge. So then for the next few days, anytime I'm hungry and when I want to go and I've got something prepared already, I can throw it, in a bowl and put it in the microwave. And the key for me was to try to eat consistently throughout the day, around about every 2 to 3 hours was how it worked out best for me. I also have the privilege of being able to work around about 9 steps from my kitchen. And so on most days when I'm home, I'm able to slip in and grab something to eat. And that's just not reality for everybody else. And so if you're not in that position, then you're going to have to be really methodical about planning your breakfast, your lunch, your dinners, and taking some things for snacks throughout the day that are going to help you reach those goals. Something that can go in your backpack or your briefcase, or can go in the console of the truck while you're driving. And that's like that. It's a process, but if you just keep doing the same thing you've always done, wondering why you're not getting bigger or why things aren't changing, you'll continue to get the same results. I know that I'm probably making it sound tedious, and it is a little bit tedious, but I can tell you that once you finally get to the spot where you're like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to that next level, tracking your food it's not a chore. It's like, cool, I'm one step closer to my goals by paying attention to what I'm eating today.
And it's going to be different for everybody. So like on the opposite end of the spectrum, like where Logan has probably very disadvantageous genetics or metabolism, at least for gaining muscle, I'm a little bit closer on the, I have a little bit my genetics would be more advantageous for building muscle. So like, for instance, what was the calorie count you were eating when you finally started to gain weight?
No, I had
It's increasing a couple hundred every week and getting your body used to that, because otherwise on the other side of the spectrum you're going to feel like total dog shit if you're just dumping that much food into you and you're not used to it.
That's exactly right, and that's the mindset that rodeo guys have, right? You know, when when
Thousand
I
percent.
when I have when I have a consult, yeah, when I have a consult with my first nutrition consult with a new client, and I'm like, hey, these are the numbers that we're going to work our way up to. You know, this is what I want you to focus on right now. I try to we're always talking about just breaking it down into the next small step, something that they can be consistent with. So this is the numbers we're eventually getting to, and what they hear is you can't
I
eat
want
this
you to
much.
eat that
And so
tomorrow.
then, you know, I mean, one out of every
Dare me.
5 times I have somebody
Yeah.
text me and they're like, "Oh, I hit my numbers today." It's like the day after the phone call, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Cool, how you feel?" They're like, "I don't really feel very good." I'm like,
Yeah.
"I told you, dude. I didn't. It's not that I don't believe that you can eat that much. It's that we don't want to make those huge jumps. We want it because that's how we fall off the wagon, right? You think about
Mm-hmm.
anything in your life that you've ever wanted to start, you like went all in. You were working out 6 days a week and you're eating only healthy food and you've
Burned
cut it
out.
out of your life. And it's so hard to be
You
consistent.
couldn't even stick with
Yeah.
it long enough to see results.
No.
That's exactly right. But if you just make those small jumps and little tweaks, like
Oh yeah.
eating another palm of protein, like, okay, I'm going to have one more serving for this week and then bump it up a little bit the next week. And then next thing you know, you get to the spot where like I've been able to look back at what I ate, like when I was rodeoing, I bet I wasn't eating 12 to 1400 calories. I was 30 years old. I
Yeah.
weighed 148, 150 pounds. I was eating 1,200 calories, maybe 1,400, with the occasional day where I ate 2,000. And then I was training twice a week, doing box jumps for reps and reps and reps, not with the intent of producing power, but just for cardio. I was kettlebell swinging and burpeeing and running and for oh man, I was wore out when I got to the rodeo. My
Mm-hmm.
body was like, dude, when are we gonna be done? And then I would expect it to do something drastic, like ride a bucking
Mm-hmm.
horse. No wonder I had all the injuries that I had in my career.
Yeah, dude, that's just stuff we didn't know. But talking about the working outside, like you doing so much, something else that we talk with clients about is that mind muscle connection, and not just going totally ape shit when you get in there,
Mm,
but slowing down, using a tempo, really focusing on that max contraction every rep, and um, you know, balancing, focusing on those big compound movements while maintaining proper form is going to help you increase your muscle. It's going to help you increase your strength. We talk about progressive overload a lot. Practicing those movements is going to help your mind and muscle connection. So doing that same movement for weeks on end, but the progressive overload, that how you keep seeing adaptations, is adding a little bit of weight each week, whether it's 2.5 pounds, 5 pounds. You did 3 sets of 10 reps. Cool. By the end of the next, 4 weeks, we want to be doing, I don't know, 15, 20 pounds more than you did the first week on this lift or that weight. That would be seeing that, dude, strength is going up. My body's responding well because I'm able to do this and not feel just totally wrecked. And I know I couldn't do this on week 1. So just those are signs that you can check off, little check boxes that you're going the right way and to keep going. When we stop seeing those is when we need to readjust some things.
mm,
But that mind muscle
There's
connection
such
is
a
really,
thing
really
like too
important.
is yeah, on mind muscle connection, there's such a thing too as newbie gains. Like when somebody
Mm-hmm.
starts following a program and like actually doing, the compound lifts correctly, and especially with tempo, because it makes it so much more harder during the actual exercise, but you gain more insight as to how your body's moving, and you tend to see results like super fast, because of you're making this connection between your mind and muscle, and your brain. This is a little off topic, but like your brain is like sending a bunch of electrical signals, and so like all these signals, like when you're doing a slow heavy squat with tempo, and you're feeling every contraction or like every muscle the whole way down, your brain is now like sending these electrical signals and you're aware of them for the first
Mm-hmm.
time.
mm.
Whereas before, like if you're just doing burpees for reps, or kettlebell swings till you puke, like your body's just doing what it can as efficiently as possible to get through whatever you told it to
To
do.
survive. Yeah.
And when you focus on the mind muscle connection, like the results come fast and they come really you'll be surprised. And then it also lays a foundation for once progress starts to slow down, then you can apply the progressive overload and you have this
Mm.
solid foundation underneath you that you can build off of.
Absolutely, dude. Nailed it. What about recovery, guys? For trying to gain muscle. We talk about this being important for everything, but I think the biggest misconception that we deal with is growth comes during the workouts. And we know that it really comes with our recovery.
Yeah. And so I can say this in the seasons. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut
you're
you
good.
off,
We just
Doug,
had a little delay there.
Say in the season of life in which I've seen the most transformation has been the seasons in which I prioritize sleep, and I was getting 7.5 to 8.5 hours sleep a night at a minimum. Right. And then also the season of life in which I was outside as much as I could be, and I'd just go for walks. Outside of my workout, I would go for a walk and I would get some sun. And then I was also, the quality of food, like we talked about earlier, plays such a huge role in your recovery. And really those things, like my nutrition was dialed in, my sleep was dialed in. I'm not scrolling on my phone right before bed. I'm taking 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour before bed and getting rid of the screens. I'm focusing on maybe a little bit of stretching or reading a book or winding down and then getting deep rest. That was when I really saw the biggest changes in my physique. And it was because of the recovery. We know that that's when adaptation happens. We just place the stress on the body in the gym. But when we're actually going to adapt to that stress is once we give the body a period of recovery. And then the body can say, okay, I've learned that now, and I'm ready for that progressive overload or what's to come tomorrow, instead of compounding stress.
It's basically it's building up talent or tolerance to what's about to come. Like, so you think about it the same way as like calluses on your hands. Like the first day you build fence, your hands are bleeding. On week 2 or week 3 of building fence, you have calluses in those spots where there wasn't before, and so now your hands aren't bleeding anymore. And so like it's the same way with like muscle adaptations. Like the first day might be super sore, or you are really fatigued, but over time, like your body's going to build up tolerance to those situations, and then when you place them in that next time, you've grown since then.
Absolutely,
that's a great analogy.
That is a good analogy. You gotta focus on that recovery. It's the missing aspect for majority of people that we see. They think they're sore, they're tired, they're just being a bitch, so they go harder the next day, and that's just not a sustainable.
Or they'll skip sleep to get their workout in.
Yeah.
Like, oh, only got 2 hours of sleep last night. Better go get my workout in. It's like, well.
That's kind of why I like having a Whoop on or some kind of tracker that tracks your recovery, because that's telling you how set up you are that day to go output. So if you're waking up in the green, it's like, hell yeah, dude, you're set up to have a good day working out. If you're waking up in the yellow, okay, I can still go work out. I just need to adjust my intensity and really focus on my recovery as well to get back to that green, because I am going to check that output box, that day. And then if you're waking up in the red, that's saying, again, you could go work out, but if you're at 9% recovered, you need to be about 9% output. So a nice walk outside would be a great recovery and still be checking the box for getting something in for that day. I just have always liked Whoop for that reason, and just tracking the trends of things. But, we talk about gaining muscle today, the importance of working out and eating correctly. So you need to be doing a program that is set up to increase your muscle mass. You need to be eating in a way that is set up to, again, increase your muscle mass. And that's going to be different for everybody, depending on your genetics, depending on your body type, your output levels each day, what kind of fitness you're doing. It needs to be individualized. And then focusing on that recovery is going to be a huge part. And we talk about that, I feel like, almost every episode. Recovery is the bee's knees, cat's pajamas, if you will, to any kind of fitness, any kind of sport. You got to recover. You guys are like trying to hold back. You like the cat's pajamas, huh?
Yeah.
that was pretty. You know what I love is that I get comments from clients multiple times, new clients that are like, I have a question. I worked for 16 hours today, and I'm getting home at 11 p.m. Got to be back up at 6. I think that the answer is I shouldn't work out. I think I should just go to bed because I've listened to you guys' podcast. But what would you do? And I'm like, that's happened like 5 or 6 times with brand new clients. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's working. Like it's getting, and we hound on recovery. We talk about it so much, but it's actually working, and it's helping people adapt and grow and get stronger and be able to accomplish the goals that they want to in the gym. And so that lets us know that we're on the right track. We might sound like a broken record, but it's actually getting through, at least to some people.
Heck yeah, that is really cool. Anybody listening out there, if you have any questions about putting on muscle or questions in general, shoot us a DM on Instagram. Would love to hear from you and help you out. Even if you have some, experiences with gaining muscle, some positives, we'd love to share those and be pumped with you about them, and maybe help you continue on down that journey of putting on muscle or whatever you want to do aesthetically and with your health. Guys, we gotta thank our sponsors. Hui, rocking Hui all day, every day. Hats, hoodies, loving it. Keeping me warm up here in Montana. Jeans. And looking good. And their jeans, dude. Fuck, they were so great at the school. Like, we were exercising, doing all those demos and stuff. I'm like, yep, I can move through everything. I got no problem with range of motion. These are sick. Use our discount code Champion Living, all one word, not case sensitive. You can get your Hui gear at getyourhui.com. And Beastmaster Rodeo been with us since day one. These guys are changing the game when it comes to rodeo gear, not just for rough stock riders, but timed events, stock contractors, pickup men, you name it, they got it. Check them out, beastmasterrodeo.com. Use our discount code Champion Living. It is case sensitive, going to be uppercase, all one word. Going to save you 10% on all of Beastmaster's gear. Guys, until next time, we'll catch you later.